New meeting number 7. It's Tuesday, March the 7th at 10 a.m. Annex room 149. Please call the roll.
Representative Banta.
Here.
Representative Bentley.
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Bowling.
Here.
Representative Branscombe.
Here.
Representative Bray.
Here.
Representative Brown.
Here.
Representative Dossett. Representative Flannery. Representative Fleming.
Present.
Representative Frazier Gordon.
Here.
Representative Freeland. Representative Fugit.
I can do it.
Representative Gentry.
Here.
Representative Hart. Representative Johnson. Representative McCool. Representative McPherson.
Here.
Representative Palumbo.
Here.
Representative Raymond. Representative Riley. Representative Stevenson. Representative Upchurch.
Here.
Vice Chair Reed.
Here.
Chair Petrie.
Here. We have quorum and we will proceed. And Budget Director Hicks. First on the agenda, we have a discussion of EK Safe Fund. By way of context, Director Hicks caused a letter to be sent over to the General Assembly yesterday dealing with the EK Safe funds and regarding appropriation matters. And there was a 2-page letter. I don't think that's in anyone's packet, so we're just going to approach it as 2 different subject matters and any other context that needs to be around it. Section 1 and Section 2. And Director Hicks was gracious enough to come on short notice and help us understand what the 2 separate requests are and anything we need to know around those. So if you will, just introduce yourself for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Hicks, State Budget Director, Secretary of the Governor's Executive Cabinet.
Very good. You raise your right hand. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for inviting me. This is about the Eastern Kentucky Safe Fund, as the chairman introduced. In a special session last year, there was $200 million from the general fund devoted to the Eastern Kentucky Safe Fund to help with the recovery and response to the Eastern Kentucky flooding disaster. Of that $200 million, $115 million was appropriated to the Department of Military Affairs, the Division of Emergency Management. And in that provision, there were 2 paragraphs. The first one said, it broke the $115 million into 2 pieces. First, a $75 million piece, and second, a $40 million piece. The language said that if the $75 million hadn't been fully awarded by January 7th of 2023, essentially when you all started the current session of the General Assembly, then that $40 million expired. And so I'm here today to ask the General Assembly to amend that legislation to retain that $40 million within the $115 million appropriated to emergency management. And so that's, we had not awarded $75 million by the time we got to January 7th. To date, we've awarded around $40 million, just to give you an update on that. But we know there's a lag time on some projects, in particular water and sewer infrastructure projects. Because of the nature of a construction project, we've not yet really started to see the opening of the requests from the water and sewer districts in that region for the permanent repairs to what the flood had damaged. The Division of Water had already done an estimate of over $1 billion in damage. So just to let you know, more is coming, and we think that $40 million can be productively used to help the Eastern Kentucky region recover from the flooding damage.
Right, if I may stop at that one. So that's really the first issue that was introduced in the letter. And if I'm understanding it correctly, by correspondence as well as what you've related this morning, it's somewhat a carry forward type and anti-lapse, so that we're not changing the structure of the money or the dollar figure of the money. We're just making sure that it continues to be available through the fund and through that structure.
That's exactly right, Mr. Chairman.
If you don't mind, I'm going to stop on that one just so we don't start confusing the issues. Does any member have a question about what's being related on this first issue, either by context or by virtue of the methods and the mechanics? Seeing none, if you will proceed to that second issue, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The other issue is another provision in that $200 million appropriation was there was $45 million in the general fund appropriated to the Transportation Cabinet, to the Highways Budget Unit, to help finance the repair and reconstruction of state-owned roads and bridges. And so in that language, we wrote it such that these funds would be provided to provide the match to federal dollars, whether they're FEMA disaster grants or the Federal Highways Administration's emergency grants. The intention there was to be able to fund either the 25% match to FEMA or the 20% match to Federal Highways. Subsequently, we have learned that there are instances in which those two federal agencies, particularly FEMA, have denied some of our claims in those instances. A lot of the situations around that is the federal government's the uncertainty about the pre-disaster condition of a road or a bridge. You have to have really good documentation about that the condition was in shape prior to the flood and that the flood's damage caused the damage that's being repaired. And so there are instances in which we don't get what we expected in terms of the federal dollars. And so we wanted to tweak the language in that provision so that the $45 million retains its purpose in terms of helping repair state roads and state bridges, but we have instances in which they won't be used to match in cases in which the federal government has denied our claims. I will say that the Transportation Cabinet is vigilant about seeking all of the federal reimbursements that are possible in those instances, so it will not relax their intentions of requesting those federal dollars in the first place.
Thank you. If I'm reading the proposed language on Section 2 and your comments this morning, this one's a little different than Section 1 because it would move restricted funds within EK Safe out to the transportation budget. I'm trying to make sure I understand.
No, it keeps it in
the.
I'm sorry. It keeps them in the same spot. It just broadens the eligible use of the funds to not just be for the non-federal share, but to be used of state road and bridge repair, but to be used for state road and bridge repair, because there are cases in which we don't get the federal dollars.
So the restricted funds that have been appropriated into EK Safe would remain in EK Safe, just be tweaked on language for a little broader purpose.
Yes, but the primary purpose of state road and bridge repair remains the same.
And there's some concern about that. We had this originally, and so I want to make sure we're clear. You've mentioned state roads 2 or 3 times. I want to make sure that's what we're talking about: state properties, state construction, state maintenance, not private, those type things, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. County roads and county bridges, we've accommodated the local share of FEMA reimbursement through this Eastern Kentucky Safe Fund. And again, private roads not applicable here.
Okay, thank you. Any member want to be recognized for question or comment on this Section 2, or if we need to go back to Section 1? And I apologize about not having the letter in front of you, but I'm not sure that it would help you a great lot. It's a really great parsed budget language, which doesn't make intuitive sense. I think Director Hicks's explanation has been much better than the language on the written page. Anyone? Very good. Thank you very much for coming in on a short notice and helping out on it.
Well, thank you for hearing us out.
All right,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you. Has any member come in after roll was called, wants to be recognized? Representative Freeland. Anyone else? Raymond. Okay, Representative Raymond. Anyone else? Just making sure we got everybody. Thank you. Up first, we're going to take up 319, House Bill 319. An act relating to teacher shortages and making an appropriation therefore. Sponsor is Representative James Tipton. If you will, introduce yourself for the record, please.
James Tipton, State Representative, House District 53.
Will you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You surprised me a little bit since I was last on the agenda, but I am prepared. Here today with you to talk about House Bill 319, and there is a committee sub.
I'll entertain a motion for adoption of PHS 2. Have a motion and a second for adoption of PHS 2. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? PHS 2 has been adopted. We now have before us for consideration House Bill 319 as amended by PHS 2. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'll just briefly describe what the House substitute does. It removes some sections that were in the original version of House Bill 319. There was a section that would apply to develop a marketing plan for CPE to administer that could take state, federal, or private funds. That was removed. Hopefully we can talk about that in the budget session next year. There was also a section that would require KDE to expand the Go Teach Kentucky Ambassador Program. Again, that is an appropriation item, and hopefully we can talk about that again next year. There was another section I'll get to a little bit, but essentially we have a situation in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. We have a workforce problem in general, but we also, this applies to not only our certified but our classified teachers. Now there's been a lot of discussion about just exactly how significant this issue is. There was a number that went around that was floated around a lot early in the year that we had 11,000 vacancies. Back on February 7th, House Education Committee, for the members that were there, we had the commissioner in, had a discussion on this, and they're not actually 11,000 teacher vacancies. That would be 1 in 4 classrooms in the state. But over the course of the last year, there have been close to 11,000 postings for jobs for different school districts. In actuality, in the HICKS system, the Kentucky Educator Placement Service, I checked that the first of the year. In early January, we had like 1,517 certified positions open at that time, still a significant amount. So that's why we've got House Bill 319 before you. The Department of Defense initiated a program through CSG to develop an interstate compact for teacher licensure. That model language is included in the legislation. It's about 20 pages of the bill. That model language would have to be adopted by at least 10 states before the compact could take place. The Department of Defense, just to give you an example, a member of the Department of Defense developed that. You had a military member might transfer to one of our bases here in Kentucky. Their spouse, a certified teacher in another state. That would allow them to, if they had an applicable license in another state, they could get an equivalent license to teach immediately here in Kentucky. Then they would have to update any recertification requirements later. Also, there is require an online statewide job placement service. We currently have the HICKS program, as I mentioned earlier, direct KDE to update that. So all the applications would go on electronically. All the openings, rather, the vacancies, and then all the applications would go on just to simplify that process. It would require school districts to perform exit interviews when teachers leave and report that data to KDE, so we have specific data. We're not guessing, we're getting specific data. It would require EPSB to update regulations. Currently, in their alternative certifications, a person has to have a job, has to have actually an offer of employment. It will allow them to provide a certificate to obtain an eligible for hire letter to simplify that. Also would require education and licensure effectiveness to review all the alternative pathways. We currently have 9 options. Some people don't understand that, to review them to see if there's duplication, to see how many people are actually using each option, and come back with a report on that late next year. Also, there's a provision in here that would allow for a 1-year interim certificate. This would be for eligible for a person, be good for 1 year. They could renew this for 2 years. This program would end with an effective date of June 30th, 2026. For an individual who has a bachelor's degree in a specific area, has at least 4 years of work experience in that area, and they would be required to have a mentor teacher work with them. If we didn't have a teacher shortage, we probably wouldn't be looking at this, but this is where we are, ladies and gentlemen.
A motion and a second on House Bill 319 as amended by PHS 2. Seeing no one seeking recognition, please call roll.
Representative Vanta,
Yes.
Representative Bentley,
Just one little comment.
Briefly, please.
Thank you for including the military. You remember House Bill 91, we were trying to keep them there too. introduced, so I'm a yes, thank you.
Representative Bowling,
Yes.
Representative Branscombe,
Yes.
Representative Bray,
Yes.
Representative Brown,
Yes.
Representative Dossett, Representative Flannery, Representative Fleming, Representative Frazier Gordon,
Yes.
Representative Freeland,
Yes.
Representative Fugit, Representative Gentry,
Explain my vote, please.
Please briefly.
I understand the problem with the shortage and understand this is a compact that won't take effect until we have 10 states. Is that what you said? Honestly, I'm not sure everything that's in this bill because this is a substitute, but I'll go on and vote yes today and forward it to the floor. And I may have some more questions. If I do, I'll reach out to you. Thank you.
Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Johnson,
Yes.
Representative McCool, Representative McPherson,
Yes.
Representative Palumbo, Representative Raymond, Representative Riley, Representative Stevenson, Representative,
Sorry. Can I explain my vote, please?
Yes, briefly.
I too am going to be a yes today. I tried to flip through here, but in just seeing this morning, we'll move it on. But I want to reserve my right to change my vote. Thank you.
And I would again encourage you, if you have questions, contact Representative Tipton. He'll get you through it quickly. Thank you.
Representative Upchurch,
Yes.
Vice Chair Reed,
Yes.
Chair Petrie.
Yes. House Bill 319 is amended by PHS 2, having received 21 yes votes, no nay votes, no pass votes, will be reported with favorable expression that same should pass on the floor. And we do have a title amendment.
Motion on the title.
Have a motion and a second for adoption of the title amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Title amendment is adopted. We now have House Bill 319 as amended by PHS 2 and amended by title amendment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Next up, we're going to take up House Bill 9, an act relating to economic relief for local communities of the Commonwealth, sponsored by Representative Richard Heath. And if you will introduce yourself and anyone else that may be assisting in the presentation, do the same.
Good morning. I have with me today Hannah Conover with the Executive Director of Grant Ready, Kentucky, and Rebecca Hartsoe with the Babbage co-founder, who is the contract lobbyist for Grant Ready, Kentucky.
If each of you raise your right hands, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please proceed, and before you do, please note that we do have PHS 3.
Motion on PHS 3.
Have a motion and a second on adoption of PHS 3 to House Bill 9. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? PHS 3 is adopted. We now have before us for consideration House Bill 9 as amended by PHS 3. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. So we appreciate you inviting us here today to hear House Bill 9. It's called the GRANT program, and GRANT stands for Government Resources Accelerating Needed Transformation. So what I'd like to do at this time is ask Hannah if she would go ahead and present part of the information.
Now, affectionately, I've been calling this the IWG CPPCER for reference. Will that work?
Yeah. Worked hard on that name. Thank you all. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you today. My name is Hannah Conover. I'm a CPA currently living in Lexington, Kentucky, and I'm also the executive director of Grant Ready, Kentucky. I wanted to share with you that I grew up 40 minutes from here in Harrodsburg, Kentucky. I attended Eastern Kentucky University, and I have lived and worked in Kentucky for my entire career. I just wanted to emphasize that I'm deeply vested in the Commonwealth. I care deeply about our communities, and I want to see us succeed. Today, I'm sharing a tremendous opportunity that Kentucky has, a couple of barriers to those opportunities, and then some potential solutions. So the opportunity is quite large. In the last few years, 4 pieces of federal legislation have been passed that have authorized over $3 trillion in federal spending. Much of that spending is going to be in the form of competitive grants. And this means that Kentucky is going to go head-to-head with other states in competition for this funding. This is not just one program. It's going to come down through multiple federal agencies. And we know that the funding is going to include areas of particular interest for us in Kentucky. So we know from census data that unfortunately Kentucky is 48th in the nation in workforce participation rates, 45th in broadband coverage, 44th in median household income. So essentially, we can't afford to miss out on significant funding opportunities for things like economic development, workforce development, infrastructure, substance use disorder programs, STEM education, and quite a bit more. But more exciting than the $3 trillion is how it's being prioritized. So in 2021, 12 federal agencies came together to form what's called an interagency working group. The full name is quite long. It's the Interagency Working Group on Coal and Power Plant Communities and Economic Revitalization. But the point is really that at the federal level, this group's job is to prioritize investment in communities that have been especially impacted by coal mine, power plant, and fossil fuel job losses. The group identified 25 areas across the entire nation that they will be prioritizing for this federal funding. And this is where it gets quite exciting for Kentucky because we actually have 2 of those top 10 areas. A collection of counties that you see here in Eastern Kentucky have been prioritized number 2 in the nation, and a collection of counties in Western Kentucky have been prioritized number 6 in the nation. So this is a major opportunity for us, but it means that we have to get ready to compete, which is where we start to see a few barriers. This is emphasizing the unique moment that we're in, where billions of dollars are being made available for small towns all across the nation, which is great, but getting access to this funding can be quite difficult. So let's talk about the barriers and the challenges that we need to overcome. The first barrier is just that the federal funding system is inherently complex. There are 26 federal agencies that administer over 1,000 grant programs every year. This picture really illustrates the complexity of grant funding and how difficult it can be. This is just the economic and community development programs and not all grant programs that exist. So that means we have to work together to identify the right opportunities for projects. The second issue is that a majority of federal grants require something called a cash match, which means that a small town or local government would have to come up with potentially 20 to 50% of the federal grant amount, or they're not going to be competitive. So if I'm a rural town and I'm applying for $1 million grant, I'm now looking around trying to figure out where I'm going to come up with $200,000 to $500,000, or I know I'm not going to be competitive for that funding, and I may just choose to leave it on the table. So what happens? A multitude of national studies have shown that rural communities and nonprofits are underfunded compared to metro areas. This study concluded that the most economically distressed communities are actually the least likely to apply for funding. So this creates a vicious cycle where states and cities that have a lot of capacity can put together a great proposal, can pull together a great cash match. They will go after the funding and win
Motion
it.
on the bill.
Second.
Have a motion and a second on House Bill 9 as amended by PHS 3. Please proceed at your own discretion and peril.
Mr. Chairman, I'm fine to take the vote if the members have no questions.
In all fairness, is there any other points to highlight, like at the top chapter heading level, that you need to make sure that this committee's aware of or the public's aware of before the bill may or may not be considered?
I'll throw a sentence in there that's at the top of my talking list. The main objective of House Bill 9 is to seize on this extraordinary opportunity and then to leverage Kentucky's state tax dollars towards significant projects that will revitalize our rural communities. And I think a lot of you guys in here can identify with rural Kentucky, rural communities, and we're open to any help that we can get.
Anybody else?
I'll just say that what House Bill 9 does is it creates a framework such that a coalition of local counties, local governments, an area development district, nonprofits, collection of nonprofits can come to the state to seek that matching grant. That's what this bill does.
The only comment I would make is that a number of our neighboring states have done similar bills. West Virginia, Ohio, and Indiana have each invested $250 to $500 million in similar legislation, and they have seen great results, with Indiana getting 20-to-1 leverage on their dollars.
Yeah.
And on that point, I think this PHS 3 contains a $2 million appropriation, correct?
I wasn't aware of that.
Does it or does it not? I'm asking.
No, there's no appropriation in
Okay.
this.
So just structure, and so to open the conversation up, I have PHS 3 that has a $2 million physical note to it, so I'm just throwing that out there. But $2 million, if that were an appropriation that ended up through the process attached to the bill, that would be a pool of funds from which the state could assist in affording match money to better the chances of the applicants at the local level to access those federal funds that are available, correct?
Absolutely.
And you were mentioning Ohio, West Virginia, Indiana.
Yes.
Correct.
That have considerable appropriations, and they've already started leveraging those.
Correct.
So of course, if something were to start with a small amount and we see that ROI starting to churn quickly, then there's always another consideration, there's always another session, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Just to add, Indiana did set aside $500 million a year and a half ago, and they've leveraged that to the tune of $9.86 billion in 1 year. So that's where Hannah's saying 20-to-1. It's just incredibly significant and can be absolutely transformative for Kentucky, both all the communities.
Is this for this?
DJ Johnson.
All right, I've got Representative Gentry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Help me out here so I could go home and do some research on this. Is there a federal act named to what triggered this program, or is this a presidential executive order?
So I'm gonna step in real quick, if I may. Page 1 of PHS 3, and if you will look at line 7 and a few lines following that, that's where I come up with that nice affectionate IWGCPPCER, which is Interagency Working Group on Coal and Power Plant Communities and Economic Revitalization by Executive Order 14008, issued back in January 27, 2021. This should be where this program really emanates from.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So it is a presidential executive order. I see that now. Thank you.
And if I'm looking at section 10 of PHS 3, it does contain a $2 million appropriation. Representative Johnson.
That's all.
Quick comment and then a question, and my comment is that $2 million sounds like it might be just enough to frustrate everybody. So we may have to look at that number down the road and see how this is going. My question is this. I noticed in the list of counties in the western half of the state that Davis County was not included. I think I understand why. I know just enough to probably be dangerous on this topic, but if you could just clarify how the counties were listed and why there were some that weren't, and is there any relationship that they can build between those two? Thank you.
Absolutely. It's a perfect question. And I'm from Davis County, so I was certainly distressed to see that it wasn't on there. I grew up in the oil and gas business, so certainly an energy community. But Davis County, as far as the federal government was concerned, is Metro County, so that's why they were left off. Henderson was the same way, even though there's replete sort of, you can imagine, coal power plants and all these other things. That's how they designated these. So it's the federal government deciding what to do here, and so it's the rural areas that are affected by these closures and job losses. However, what we have included in the framework here is that we're trying to incentivize collaboration on for counties, for regions, for nonprofits, and we have created a definition for a regional project. So all these counties can come together and apply on the single application, and counties that are not, say, included on that priority list, provided that there's counties that are priority communities that would be benefiting from the grants, they could all join together on a single application. So there are possibilities there for those counties.
Great. Thank you for that, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And just to make sure we're clear, the counties designated at the federal level receive levels of preferred status in their applications.
Yes.
So it maximizes our chances at the state level to put match money in to assist those that already have a leg up in the application consideration process at the federal level, correct?
Correct.
Right. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to clarify something. The copy that I had stopped at Section 8, so that would explain why I didn't know that Section 10 had that 2 million in there. Thank you for clarifying that.
Perfectly fine, and there is a physical note that's attached to the packets also that reflects same. All right, we have a motion and a second on House Bill 9 as amended by PHS 3. Seeing no other members seeking recognition, please call roll.
Representative Banta,
Yes.
Representative Bentley, Representative Bowling,
Yes.
Representative Branscombe,
Yes.
Representative Bray,
Yes.
Representative Brown,
Yes.
Representative Dossett, Representative Flannery, Representative Fleming, Representative Frazier Gordon,
Yes.
Representative Freeland,
Yes.
Representative Fugit,
Yes.
Representative Gentry,
Yes.
Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Johnson,
Yes.
Representative McCool, Representative McPherson,
Yes.
Representative Palumbo,
Yes.
Representative Raymond,
Yes.
Representative Riley, Representative Stevenson,
Yes.
Representative Upchurch,
Yes.
Vice Chair Breed,
Yes.
Chair Petrie.
Yes, and I'm going to explain really quickly. There was a point made by Representative Johnson, which is a good point about the 2 million, and it's low, and I brought out the difference of other states and what they've put in. Understand there is a bit of timing to this bill also, that once the structure gets into place, and then to ramp up to get the structure filled out, and then start pulling down information from the federal government, and then from the bottom up, actually making the applications before we get over to the grant considerations of state match money. There's a lot of time in there, which will probably get us well past January, February, March of next year in order to get. So 2 mil should be able to get us started into the process deep enough to go, okay, it has muscle attached to the bone, and what do we need to do, and look at it with clearer eyes at that point. With that, I still say yes. House Bill 9 is amended by PHS 3, having received 21 yes votes, 0 nay votes, 0 pass votes, will be reported from this committee with favorable expression that same should pass on the floor, and we do have a title amendment. I have a motion and a second for adoption of the title amendment. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? So a title amendment is adopted. We now have House Bill 9 is amended by PHS 3 with favorable and a title amendment thereon. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee, and co-sponsors are welcome.
Thank you. Next up for consideration, we have House Bill 200, an act relating to the healthcare workforce, making an appropriation therefore, and declaring an emergency. Sponsor Representative Ken Fleming. If you will, introduce yourself for the record, and anyone else that may be helping in the presentation, if they'll introduce themselves also.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do you want to swear me in?
You will introduce yourself first, and anybody else that may be presenting along with you.
Yes, sir. So I'm Ken Fleming, representing the 48th District that represents Oldham and Jefferson County.
Leslie Sizemore. I work for the Council on Post-Secondary Education in the area of workforce initiatives.
Very good. You're cutting out a little bit. I'm not sure if it's the mic or the distance. Just make sure it's close enough and it's really green on the light. If the two of you will raise your right hands, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Please proceed. And before we do, I have a motion for adoption of PHS 2 on House Bill 200, and a motion and a second on that. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? PHS 2 is adopted. We now have for consideration HB 200 as amended by PHS 2. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to thank the chair for making this bill, actually more perfecting it and making it a little more solid a strong bill, and also like to thank Representative Hart for jumping on the very initial beginnings of this in terms of House Bill 200. I want to just go over the clarifications of the substitute first. Then I'll get into what the bill actually does. First of all, in the substitute, it clarifies available funds, makes sure that we have available funds in order to provide investment into or money into this investment. It also puts in a sunset clauses, basically 6 years out. The General Assembly have to go through and evaluate this and making sure that it's accomplishing what we want it to accomplish. It also allows the General Assembly to have more input in regulations. When they do come out, or actually before they come out, they're going to come to us and basically get our thoughts, make sure we intend that the intent of the regulations is what we're trying to accomplish. And also, I think it's really important to note that the baseline. We have baselines out there in terms of healthcare workers, and we know we need to figure out what they are, or at least validate them, and then have an incremental increase in those particular positions when it comes to healthcare. So I think having the CPE who administer this bill, or administer this program, to understand where we're going and make sure that the money is going in there for the proper, to meet the proper goals. Basically. House Bill 200, and conversations I've had with healthcare stakeholders and families, reading a lot of the media reports and studies, and also with the interim committee that we had this past summer in task force.
We have a motion and a second for House Bill 200 as amended by PHS 2. I'll say the same thing, proceed at your discretion and peril, as we said before. Do understand, and I did not state this on 319, but 200 has been committed went through another committee first, substantively reviewed on policy, and recommitted to A&R for further consideration. So if we truncate or you truncate your presentation, it's not because of the bill, it's because it's already been presented fully once before. With that said, anything else that you need to highlight?
I just want to highlight a couple of things, Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much. Basically, if you want to have a headline and look at what this bill does, basically this bill kickstarts career paths for all Kentuckians interested in healthcare career paths, and puts a jetpack on a healthcare training program and pipeline. So basically, it looks at the money is going to go to scholarships, where most of the money goes into, then also goes into universities to help them build up faculty, as well as the equipment and so forth. So this is a great investment. I think it's a very innovative and creative approach to try to help build up our healthcare workforce, which is really a shortage. And if you don't mind, I'd like to have Ms. Sizemore just give one or two quick comments.
Chair Petrie and committee members, I just wanted to articulate a little bit more of a focus on this bill's opportunity to expand equitable access to students from our low-income areas, our rural counties. I think that that's a very important part of the bill, and that we can focus our efforts toward providing those means for students to pay for their education without accruing that significant debt.
No, I just want the one thing I want to say, this basically is a broad spectrum approach into healthcare workers. I've heard from quite a few members, as well as out in the county, out in the state, EMT and paramedics. This helps out the EMT paramedics in terms of workforce. It also helps out the nursing aides and nurses, dental hygienists, and particularly mental health professionals. With that, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much.
Very good. We have a motion and a second on the bill. Anyone seeking recognition for discussion, questions, comments? Seeing none, please call roll.
Representative Banta,
Yes. Yes.
Representative Bentley, Representative Bowling,
Yes.
Representative Branscombe,
Yes.
Representative Bray,
Yes.
Representative Brown,
Yes.
Representative Dossett, Representative Flannery, Representative Fleming,
Aye.
Representative Frazier Gordon,
Yes.
Representative Freeland,
Yes.
Representative Fugit,
Yes.
Representative Gentry,
Yes.
Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Johnson,
Yes.
Representative McCool, Representative McPherson,
Yes.
Representative Palumbo,
Yes.
Representative Raymond,
I like jetpacks. Yes.
Representative Riley, Representative Stevenson,
Yes.
Representative Upchurch,
Yes.
Vice Chair Reed,
Yes.
Chair Petrie.
Yes. House Bill 200, as amended by PHS 2, having received 21 yes votes, 0 nay votes, 0 pass votes, will be reported from this committee with favorable expression that same should pass on the floor. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee.
And I have reviewed, there is no title amendment, so we are finished on that one. Next up, we have House Bill 189, an act relating to lottery proceeds. Sponsor Representative Kim Banta. And if you will, introduce yourself for the record.
Kim Banta, House of Representatives, 63.
You can raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please proceed. And there is no committee substitute on this, nor title amendment, so you are live, 189.
Okay, thank you, sir. This is a simple change to some lottery proceeds. Each fiscal year, $1,800,000 goes to the Collaborative Center for Literacy Development, and this bill would take that money and put it back into the general fund to be reused somewhere
Motion on the
else.
bill.
I have a motion and a second on the bill. Any discussion, comments, questions? Representative Raymond?
Hello, Representative. I've been trying to keep up with the debate over reading broadly, but when it comes to this piece in particular, I do support this effort. Is it necessary, though, to have that entity and to have that entity funded and to ensure that the practices they're using are best practices, or do you think we can do without?
In my BR subcommittee, looking at the data and what they were able to produce, this money would be used best elsewhere in another reading program.
Okay, thank you.
Any other members seeking recognition for comments, discussion, question? Seeing none, please call roll.
Representative Banta,
Yes.
Representative Bentley,
Yes.
Representative Bowling,
Yes.
Representative Branscombe,
Yes.
Representative Bray,
Yes.
Representative Brown,
Yes.
Representative Dossett, Representative Flannery, Representative Fleming,
Aye.
Representative Frazier Gordon,
Yes.
Representative Freeland,
Yes. Yes.
Representative Fugit, Representative Gentry,
Yes.
Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Johnson,
Yes.
Representative McCool, Representative McPherson,
Yes.
Representative Palumbo,
May I explain my vote, please?
Yes, please, briefly.
I'm voting yes, but I don't like anything being removed from the University of Kentucky, so I might change my vote on the floor. Thank you.
Representative Raymond,
Yes.
Representative Riley, Representative Stevenson,
Yes.
Representative Upchurch,
Yes.
Vice Chair Reed,
Yes.
Chair Petrie.
Yes. House Bill 189, having received 21 yes votes, 0 nay votes, and 0 pass votes, will be reported from this committee with favorable expression that same should pass on the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
The committee at this time will be taking up House Bill 448,
Representative Petrie, you're at the table. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Jason Petrie, State Representative, House District 16, Logan, Todd, and part of Christian counties.
Thank you, sir. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may proceed. We do have PHS2. I have a motion on PHS2 and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion passes. PHS2 is now in front of us. Representative, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This House Bill 448, as stated, is on budget recommendations. This is mainly cleanup on budget language from last session, mostly technical corrections. There is no new money actually included. If it is, it's extraordinarily slight. I'll be glad to answer any questions on this one anybody may have.
We have a motion on House Bill 448 as amended by PHS2. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Banta.
Yes.
Representative Bentley. Representative Bowling.
Yes.
Representative Branscombe.
Yes.
Representative Bray.
Yes.
Representative Brown.
Yes.
Representative Dossett. Representative Flannery. Representative Fleming.
Aye.
Representative Frazier Gordon.
Yes.
Representative Freeland.
Yes.
Representative Fugit.
Yes.
Representative Gentry.
Yes.
Representative Hart.
Yes.
Representative Johnson.
Yes.
Representative McCool. Representative McPherson.
Yes.
Representative Palumbo. Representative Raymond.
Yes.
Representative Riley. Representative Stevenson. Representative Upchurch.
Yes.
Vice Chair Reed.
Yes.
Chair Petrie.
Yes.
House Bill 448, as amended by PHS2, has received 21 yes votes, 0 no votes, 0 pass votes. Report favorably expression to and same should on the House floor. At this time, we do have a title amendment, and the chair will entertain a motion. We have a motion on the title amendment. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. Title amendment is passed. We're now proceeding to HB 444. Representative Petrie, you're already sworn in. You may proceed. We do have PHS 1 to be adopted. I have a motion on PHS 1. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. Committee sub is adopted. It is now in front of you. Representative Petrie, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. So as it relates in the title, House Bill 444 is relating to branch budget bills. That will turn into basically an increment discussion regarding state employees and partially about classification studies. The bill, PHS 1 of 444, is 2 pages long. Essentially what you have is with each of the 3 branches, legislative, judicial, and executive. We have an increment that cuts across all 3 branches recommended in this bill at the rate of 6%. We also have recommended for the judicial branch an adjustment basically of their from their classification study that would implement a $2,000 increase for elected and unelected positions within that branch. Legislative branch has already completed its classification study. That's been implemented. Judicial has now completed theirs. We've taken it under further consideration, and although all of the recommendations weren't followed in full, we did do a $2,000 increase with the increment on top of that thereafter. If you'll recall, last year, the increment discussion for judicial, we did $2,000, but it was only on unelected. This time it includes everyone elected and unelected. In the executive branch, current information is now updated again, that their classification study should be complete, we hope, by December of '23. When and if that's done, then we will take that up for consideration. In the meanwhile, all across all three branches, we would do a 6% increment.
Motion on the bill.
We have a motion on House Bill 444 as amended by PHS 1. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, we should now proceed to vote. Clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Banta,
Yes.
Representative Bentley, Representative Bowling,
Yes.
Representative Branscombe,
Yes.
Representative Bray,
Yes.
Representative Brown,
Yes.
Representative Dossett, Representative Flannery, Representative Fleming, Representative Frazier Gordon,
Yes.
Representative Fugit,
Yes.
Representative Freeland,
Yes.
Representative Gentry,
Explain my vote, please.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to pass today because I have no idea what's in the bill. I've been sitting here trying to find it in this stack, and I wasn't quick enough to even ask any questions. But we just got this morning, so this may be the greatest bill in the world. I don't know, but I'm going to pass today. Thank you.
Representative Hart,
Yes.
Representative Johnson,
Yes.
Representative McCool, Representative McPherson,
Yes.
Representative Palumbo, Representative Raymond,
Yes, but 7, 8, 9, or 10% raise would be even better.
Representative Riley, Representative Stevenson,
Pass.
Representative Upchurch,
Yes.
Vice Chair Reed,
Yes.
Chair Petrie.
Yes.
House Bill 444, as amended by PHS 1, having received 19 yes votes, 0 no votes, 2 pass votes, passes favorably as same show on the House floor. The chair will now entertain a title amendment. We have a motion on the title amendment. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. Title amendment is passed. All right, now before us is House Bill 360. Representative Petrie, you're already sworn in. You may proceed. We do have PHS 1 as a committee sub. We have a motion and a second on PHS 1. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. PHS 1 is now adopted. It is before us. Representative Petrie, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. HB 360, normally affectionately referred to as a revenue bill or the revenue bill, is what we have before us. And PHS 1, I'm going to attempt to summarize and be happy to answer questions thereafter. Finance, as well as Department of Revenue, has asked for certain clarifying things. We've had discussions with them, and so I'll indicate at various instances where some of the requests or recommendations may have come from Finance or the Department of Revenue, DOR. Finance, to begin with, Sections 1 has asked for an increase of threshold amounts relative to engineering and engineering-related fees and architectural fees, both the initial amounts as well as aggregate amounts. One from $775,000 to $150,000, and then on an aggregate of $150,000 to $300,000. That was a finance cabinet request to optimize their efficiencies. Department of Revenue has asked for sections 2 through 4, which essentially the only thing of interest in there, I think, will be an elimination of a tax rate of 1/10 of 1 cent, which has state and local impact, but it is of such a small amount, the administration of the tax for DOR is actually probably more than it's worth to the Commonwealth and to everyone else that has to deal with it. So that would propose its elimination. Section 5 Property tax rate setting, this is regarding boards of education to make sure there is clarity of when appeals processes begin, so it sets a 45-day period and make sure that we all know when that period begins. Section 6 clarifies House Bill 8 from last year, car rental and ride sharing. Human service transportation delivery, if you can think of vans and cars that have special assistance for mobility issues. An oddity in Kentucky law we have learned about just a little bit ago is that they're all considered taxis. And so as we placed a service fee on taxi services, they were included also. This would exclude them. Section 7, 8, and 9 have to deal with sales and use tax definitions, clarifying requested DOR mainly in Section 7. Section 8 would exclude certain sales tax services. Section 9 would create exemption and clarify off of House Bill 8, as well as help out on currency and bullion. I think it's references House Bill 213. It would eliminate that tax, which is a very small tax to the state, and we are an island relative to all of our sister states surrounding. This would get rid of that oddity. Water and sewer projects, this is really an add-on to assist with contractors and how taxes are paid to make sure that water districts are treated like everyone else that are similarly situated. It was an oddity in the law that I think DOR may have flagged for us. Sections 10 and 11, this is a follow-up clarifying from House Bill 8 of last year. There was an agricultural certification and conforming changes for pharmaceuticals and ivermectin that was included in last year's exclusions. Sections 12 through 15 are conforming changes to this bill. Sections 16 through 18 are what's commonly referred to as assault workaround or assault parity. 19, it's an update to reference dates to the Internal Revenue Code, which we periodically do, and in recent years we've done more often than in prior years. 20 and 21 restaurant revitalization grants. There was an oddity in language from last year, and can't recall the bill, but it wasn't 8. It was another one. This corrects that language to make sure that what was intended last session is accomplished for restaurant revitalization grants. Section 22, in conjunction with OSBD, have arrived at clarifying language for the House Bill 8 formula and triggers, and would remove DOR from analysis on that. It would be placed solely with OSBD, which has the most current and necessary information to make the calculations relative to the triggers. Section 23 would deal with extensions of certain tourism development agreements where they're seasonal and certain agreements were open to them. Benefits during COVID, some of those were closed off. Unfortunately, this would extend those back to them. Section 24, sales tax issue relative to AAA and other types of services like that, to make sure that they can include any service or sales tax inside their membership. Section 25, it can reference House Bill 81, Representative Sharp, relative to motor vehicle, recreational vehicles, and how they're taxed in-state and handled out-of-state. Sections 26 and 27 creates a more favorable assessment method to arrive at a fair cash value of housing for multi-unit rental housing. 28, tax increment financing. This proposes a way to address implications of House Bill 8 relative to TIFs. There are, I don't want to go into a great lot of depth in this one, but multiple TIFs that came up at the end of session last year, about 20-something, that would experience a downward, they would experience a downward revenue rebate from the state on income taxes. We proposed adding 5 years to the TIF agreement, which are all, I think, 20 years or less. 20 is what the standard is. This would add 5 years onto that so they could continue to collect more revenue. Cabinet for Economic Development, as I understand, is good with that proposal. Sections 29 through 31, this is distribution of road funds, and really this is relative to EV taxes that were put on last time. If you'll recall, most of those taxes regarding EVs and hybrids went into the road fund. It was intended last year but not accomplished in language to make sure that whatever money went into the road fund went through the same formula as always to the local and to the state. Right now, without that fixed language, it would all go to the state, and that is not what was intended. Section 32 is a repeal. 33 through 37 is effective dates, and there is an emergency clause in Section 38.
Motion on the bill.
We have a motion on House Bill 360 as amended by PHS 1. Is there any discussion? Representative Raymond.
Thank you. Representative, I'm looking at the sales tax section, and so I see that there's some clarification language. Cosmetic surgery services do not include those that are medically necessary. We know that some of the other services that have become taxed in recent years are also medically necessary, and I'm wondering if we could implement a blanket exemption. I'm thinking of parents of special needs children who've reached out to me about therapeutic summer camps and massage in particular.
Willing to entertain the conversation. This is one that the Department of Revenue had brought up, so we were trying to specifically deal with it. I'll be happy to talk to you about any that you've mentioned now or something that comes up in the future with anyone. Please bring it to our attention.
Okay, and a quick follow-up, please. This back and forth on the sales and use tax that people have experienced in the last several years, I think it's difficult for consumers and small business owners and tax attorneys to keep up with. What's your advice to people when this is in, this is out, this is in, and you don't know what's next?
Sometimes there is no perfect way of doing things, and tax is going to always be that way. And I can understand some consternation, the fact that we've never, with over 100 years, we've not had any major reform in Kentucky. Department of Revenue, although I think they've put earnest effort into it, have been really slow with trickling out information through their FAQs as well as their guidance. The guidance is important to everyone. We continue to watch those, and I think their guidance will continue to come out through the remainder of this calendar year. If you had 1 service, 3 service, 5 service, 76 services, or products, or anything else, plus we have court cases that are changing things that's not included in this bill right now. Tax is always changing, whether by court, by DOR guidance, or otherwise, and we will have to continually monitor those things, and just bear with us, bear with DOR, and make sure you're talking to your accountants and seeking advice about how to proceed. We try to get the information pushed out as fast as possible. Otherwise, we would never undertake any reform of tax in any direction, and we would remain stagnant, which is not going to be good under any set of circumstances. So we will continue to monitor, listen to DOR, finance, others, yourself, anyone else that has input about something that might work better, and we'll continue to do that, but with a mind of we don't like continually tinkering. But these things have been deemed necessary. We need to go ahead and get to them now.
Representative Gentry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Petrie, I'm trying to fumble through this real quick, but can you just give me a brief overview or summary? I see a section here toward the end of the bill that is doing something with multi-unit rental housing. Is there a way you can kind of give me an overview of what we're doing there and why?
So I'll give you an overview as requested. So as you said, multi-unit rental housing. So you will see it starts to define terms in that section about government restriction on use, low income, and what multi-unit rental housing might be. So that's the targeted point of the universe that we're dealing with. And then what we're trying to do is develop a method of assessing the values on those property which are more commensurate with its purposes and what it's included in that set. So it's not rental property commercial, it's not industrial property, it's not ag property, it's not manufacturing property, and we have different ways of assessing values for those. We're proposing that we have another method of assessing value for this type of low-income housing. Which will be more favorable and more amenable to what it actually is rather than placing a higher valuation method on it.
Okay, so follow up, please. Is this kind of addressing, in the past with assessment values, we kind of rely a lot on sales, and with multi-unit dwellings, they're often held for long periods of time, and there aren't sales, and appraised values aren't keeping up with real true market values. Is this an attempt to do that, or?
This is an attempt to deal with this particular market or set, which is different than dark stores, which is different than ag. It's different than all of those things. This is trying to get a more fairly assessed value, which will probably be lower relative to the uses of these particular types of properties. For instance, these types of properties are not set on what's the optimal lease value I can get in the market. They're not situated that way. The increase in value of the capital that sits on the dirt is not treated or planned the same way. So this is just trying to get a better approximation of what the assessment should be.
Okay, so this is not something that's going to trigger a lot more cost to my real estate investors that are holding properties. Okay.
No, and if this method is fairer and it takes in consideration what the intended use of this is, I can't say whether it will go up or down, but my projection will be more fairly assessed and probably down.
Representative Palumbo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you, Chair, for including restaurant revitalization grants in this legislation. I've received a lot of emails about that, and I appreciate it.
Representative Stevenson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative, why were marketing services removed from the sales tax section?
Much like the advertising category from House Bill 8 last year, that was removed. Advertising came in during session last year and said, let's make sure we all understand what the business model is. So we listened to multiple industry partners, not one or two or three, but multiples, so that we can understand different ways that the category of advertising might apply. No one in the marketing category came forward during session, so we went forward with our best information. During the interim, multiples came in at request and said, please help us understand your business models and how this would affect you. Taking it into consideration, I really couldn't make much of a distinction between marketing business model and advertising business model. In our final assessment, there likely would be a competitive disadvantage with other states. So that came back out, much for the same reasons that advertising was taken out in a subsequent draft in last year's House Bill 8.
Seeing no further discussion, clerk, please call the roll.
Representative Banta.
Yes.
Representative Bentley.
Yes.
Representative Bowling.
Yes.
Representative Branscombe.
Yes.
Representative Bray.
Yes.
Representative Brown.
No.
Representative Dossett. Representative Flannery. Representative Fleming.
Aye.
Representative Frazier Gordon.
Yes.
Representative Freeland.
Yes.
Representative Fugit.
Yes.
Representative Gentry.
Briefly explain my vote, please.
Yes, sir.
Again, I don't feel like I've had appropriate time to assess whether or not I'm in favor or against this bill, so I'm going to pass today on this particular bill. Thank you.
Representative Hart. Representative Johnson.
Yes.
Representative McCool. Representative McPherson.
Yes.
Representative Palumbo.
Yes.
Representative Raymond.
No.
Is that a no, Representative Raymond? Okay.
Representative Riley.
Yes.
Representative Stevenson.
No.
Representative Upchurch.
Yes.
Vice Chair Reed.
Yes.
Chair Petrie.
Yes, and if I may explain briefly.
Yes, sir.
Anyone that has any questions, whether by lack of time or otherwise, feel free to contact me. We'll just stop in the office. We'll work through it as fast as we can, especially if you've got targeted questions. Be glad to answer those. It's a yes. Thank you.
House Bill 360, as amended by PHS 1, having received 16 yes votes, 3 no votes, 1 pass vote, passes with favorable expression. Same should on the House floor. There is a title amendment. With a motion on the title amendment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. Title amendment is passed. Chair will entertain a motion for adjournment.